Welcome to the Metaphysics Podcast. I'm Dennis Goddard.
And I'm Louis Hex.
Today we are diving deep into some concepts that could really shift your perspective.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the idea that you can actually change your reality just by using specific statements?
It sounds a little out there,
Right.
but it's rooted in some pretty compelling science.
Yeah.
We're talking
Yeah.
neuroscience
Right.
and quantum physics.
Exactly. We'll be looking at the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Yes.
who suggests that there are 4 powerful statements that can really make a difference in your life if you really understand and embody them.
What's so interesting about Dr. Dispenza's work is that he explains that our thoughts and words aren't just happening in our heads.
Okay.
They're creating measurable electromagnetic fields.
Wait, so you're saying that, like, what I'm thinking right now is creating some kind of energy field around me?
That's exactly what the research is showing.
Wow.
These fields interact with what quantum physics calls the quantum field, which is this field of pure potential
Right.
and infinite possibilities.
So it's like our thoughts and words are sending out signals into this field of infinite possibilities, and that somehow shapes our reality.
You got it. And Dr. Dispenza doesn't just stop at theory.
Right.
He's documented cases where people have used these techniques to create amazing changes in their lives.
Like what?
Healing chronic pain,
Wow.
attracting new opportunities, even changing their financial situations.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued, so let's get to the heart of it. What are these 4 powerful statements that Dr. Dispenza talks about?
The first one is, I am enough. Think about how often you might feel like you're falling short in some way. Not smart enough, not successful enough, not whatever enough.
Oh, I think we've all been there.
Right. That feeling of not being enough can be a real drag.
And Dr. Dispenza explains that this kind of thinking creates a stress response in our bodies.
Okay.
It releases chemicals that can hinder the part of our brain that is responsible for creating our future. So by saying, I am enough, we're essentially countering those negative thoughts and rewiring our brains for something better.
Precisely. When we truly embody this statement, we start to release different chemicals like dopamine and serotonin,
Okay.
which are associated with feelings of well-being and abundance.
So instead of focusing on what we lack, we're shifting our focus to the potential that already exists within us.
Exactly.
Kind of switching from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset.
Exactly. And Dr. Dispenza emphasizes that when we declare I am enough, we're not trying to convince ourselves of something we don't believe.
Right.
We're tapping into a truth that's already there in the quantum field.
That's a really powerful shift in perspective. It's like we're aligning ourselves with a deeper truth about who we really are.
Now, are you ready for the second statement?
Hit me with it.
The second statement is, I create my reality.
Whoa. Okay, I can already feel some of our listeners pushing back on that one.
Yeah.
It kind of implies we have complete control over everything that happens to us, which doesn't always feel true, right?
That's a fair point. We certainly can't control every external circumstance.
Right.
But Dr. Dispenza isn't suggesting we can control the universe.
Okay.
He's highlighting the power we have over our perceptions, our thoughts, our choices, and our reactions.
So it's more about recognizing that we have a role to play in shaping our experiences.
Exactly.
We're not just passive bystanders.
When we declare, I create my reality, we're stepping into a place of responsibility. We're becoming conscious creators rather than unconscious victims.
So instead of feeling like we're at the mercy of our circumstances, we're choosing to actively participate in shaping our lives.
Yes, and it's fascinating to see how this plays out in Dr. Dispenza's workshops.
Okay.
He talks about people who have experienced amazing synchronicities, unexpected opportunities, and even what some might call miracles, simply by shifting their focus from feeling like they're at the effect of their circumstances to becoming the cause.
That's incredible. It sounds like we're not just talking about wishful thinking here.
I know.
There's a real science behind this.
Absolutely. It's about aligning our thoughts, our words, and our actions with the reality we want to create.
It's like that old saying, energy flows where attention goes.
Exactly. Now, are you ready for the third statement?
Now I'm ready to bring on the challenge.
The third statement is, everything is perfect now.
I'm sure some of our listeners are thinking, wait a minute, how can everything be perfect when there's so much chaos and suffering in the world?
It's a natural question.
Yeah.
And Dr. Dispenza isn't suggesting we deny the reality of challenges or pretend that everything is always sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
What he's emphasizing is the power and acceptance.
So it's about accepting the present moment as it is without judgment or resistance,
Precisely.
even when things are tough.
Because when we resist what is, we create stress and tension within ourselves.
Yeah.
We get stuck in this cycle of negativity and struggle.
Right.
But when we embrace the present moment, even the difficult parts, we can actually tap into a deeper level of peace and wisdom.
It's like that saying, what you resist persists.
Exactly. Dr. Dispenza shares a powerful story about a business owner who was facing bankruptcy.
Okay.
His initial reaction was resistance, anger, and fear. But when he started practicing the statement, everything is perfect now, something amazing happened.
What happened?
His perspective shifted. He was able to see the situation with more clarity.
Wow.
And he came up with creative solutions he never would have thought of before.
So it's like by accepting what is, we actually open ourselves up to new possibilities and solutions.
Precisely, it's paradoxical, but by surrendering to the present moment, even when it's challenging,
Yeah.
we actually gain more control over our lives.
This is all so fascinating, and I'm eager to hear about the fourth statement. What is it, and how does it fit into this whole picture?
Right, the fourth and final statement is, I am infinite potential.
And that's a statement I can get behind.
Yeah.
It feels so expansive and empowering, but what does it really mean to embody that idea?
Think about it this way. Quantum physics tells us that what we perceive as solid matter is actually mostly empty space, a field of pure potentiality waiting to be expressed.
So when we declare I am infinite potential, we're aligning ourselves with this fundamental truth about the nature of reality.
Yes.
We're recognizing that we are not limited by our physical form or our past experiences.
You got it. We're acknowledging the infinite possibilities that exist within us and around us. And when we truly embrace this truth,
Yeah.
we can break free from the limitations of our conditioning and open ourselves up to a future that's beyond anything we can currently imagine.
Wow, that's powerful stuff. It seems like these four statements taken together create a really compelling framework for personal transformation.
They absolutely do. And what's even more amazing is that Dr. Dispenza has observed a kind of multiplier effect when people start using these statements consistently.
A multiplier effect. What do you mean by that?
He's found that each statement amplifies the power of the others, creating a synergistic field of possibility. It's like they work together to accelerate the process of transformation.
So it's not just about using one statement in isolation. It's about embracing all four as a unified whole.
Exactly. And his research team has used brain scanning technology to observe what happens in the brain when people are using these statements. They've found that they activate multiple regions of the brain simultaneously.
That's incredible. So it's like we're engaging more of our brain's potential, moving beyond our habitual thought patterns, and opening up new pathways for creativity, insight, and growth.
Precisely. It's like we're upgrading our mental operating system, moving from a limited version to a more expansive and powerful one.
This is all so fascinating, but before we wrap up part one of this deep dive, I want to touch on one more thing. Dr. Dispenza talks about the collective impact of people embracing these quantum truths.
Yes, he talks about the creation of what's called a morphic field. It's a fascinating concept.
Could you explain what a morphic field is and how it relates to these four statements?
Think of a morphic field as a kind of collective energy field that connects all living things. Some scientists believe that when a critical mass of people start operating at a higher frequency,
Okay.
it creates a ripple effect in this field,
Yeah.
making it easier for others to access those same states of being.
So it's like we're all contributing to a collective shift in consciousness simply by embodying these truths in our own life.
Exactly. The more people who align with these principles of wholeness, creation, acceptance, and infinite potential,
Right.
the more we create a supportive field that uplifts everyone.
Wow, that's a powerful thought. So we're not just transforming our own lives, we're potentially playing a role in creating a more conscious and interconnected world.
That's the beauty of it. And that's why we love sharing these ideas with you.
And before we move on to part two, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the Metaphysics podcast.
And tell your friends.
We've got so much more to explore, so stay tuned.
These are ideas worth spreading. Welcome back to the Metaphysics podcast, where we're exploring the transformative power of Dr. Joe Dispenza's four statements.
I don't know about you, but I'm still buzzing from our conversation in part one. These ideas are so simple yet so profound.
They really are, and I imagine many of you listening are wondering how to actually put these statements into practice in your daily lives.
That's a great point. It's one thing to understand these concepts intellectually, but it's another thing to actually embody them. So where do we even begin?
Well, Dr. Dispenza emphasizes two key elements:
Okay?
consistency and feeling.
Consistency and feeling, got it. So it's not enough to just mindlessly repeat these statements like a robot.
Right.
We have to actually feel them, right?
Exactly. Think of these statements like tuning forks for your consciousness.
Okay.
Each time you genuinely declare one, you're adjusting your internal frequency to match the vibration of what you're affirming.
I love that analogy. It's like we're fine-tuning our inner radio dial to pick up the frequency of abundance, creativity, and possibility.
Precisely, Dr. Dispenza suggests carving out specific times throughout your day to practice these statements. He emphasizes that the moments after waking up are especially potent.
Oh, really?
Before your analytical mind fully kicks in your brain is in a theta state, which is associated with creativity and receptivity.
So it's like planting seeds in fertile ground. We're priming our minds for the day ahead by starting with these powerful affirmations.
Exactly. But don't limit yourself to just the morning. Use these statements before important meetings, during challenging situations, or anytime you feel yourself slipping into old negative thought patterns.
So it's like having a toolbox of empowering statements that we can access whenever we need a boost.
Yes, write them on sticky notes and put them on your mirror set reminders on your phone. Say them out loud during your daily walk. Find what works for you and weave them into your daily routine.
But you mentioned feeling earlier, and I want to dive into that a bit more. Why is feeling so important when we're working with these statements?
Well, remember that we're dealing with energy here. Thoughts and words carry energy, but emotions amplify that energy exponentially.
So if we're just saying the words without any real feeling behind them, we're not going to generate the same impact.
Exactly. It's like the difference between whispering something and shouting it from the rooftops. The power lies in the feeling, the conviction, the embodiment.
So how can we connect with the feeling behind each statement?
Great question. When you say, I am enough, for example, really try to feel the truth of that statement deep within. You feel a sense of wholeness, self-acceptance, and worthiness. Let that feeling wash over you.
And what about I create my reality? What kind of feeling should we cultivate with that statement?
With I create my reality, tap into a sense of empowerment and agency. Imagine yourself as the architect of your life, the artist of your destiny. Feel the excitement of possibility, the confidence of knowing you have the power to shape your experiences.
I love that it's about moving from a victim mentality to a creator mentality. And what about everything is perfect now, that one feels a bit more challenging, especially when things aren't going our way?
It can be challenging, but that's where the power of acceptance comes in when you declare everything is perfect now. Try to cultivate a feeling of peace, gratitude, and trust in the unfolding of your life. It's not about denying the reality of challenges, but about choosing to see the perfection within the imperfection.
So it's about finding the hidden blessings, the lessons, and the opportunities for growth in every situation.
Exactly, and with I am infinite potential, connect with a sense of wonder, awe, and boundless possibility. Feel the vastness of the universe within you, the infinite capacity for growth, expansion, and creation.
This is all starting to feel very tangible and practical. And we're not just talking about abstract concepts anymore, but about real tools we can use to shift our energy and create real change.
Yes, and this is where Dr. Dispenza's work gets even more fascinating. He's done extensive research on how these statements actually affect the brain.
Oh, wow.
Using advanced brain scanning technology, his team has observed that these statements, when used with genuine feeling, light up multiple areas of the brain simultaneously.
So we're not just talking about positive thinking or wishful thinking here. We're talking about measurable changes in brain activity.
Exactly, and those changes in brain activity lead to the creation of new neural pathways. It's like we're rewiring our brains for greater happiness, abundance, and fulfillment.
It's like upgrading our internal software to a more evolved and powerful version.
Yes, and Dr. Dispenza has witnessed incredible transformations in people who have fully embraced these practices. People have reported spontaneous healings, creative breakthroughs, and profound shifts in their perception of reality.
It sounds like we're tapping into a hidden reservoir of power within ourselves, a power that's always been there, just waiting to be activated.
Precisely now. Before we delve deeper into the advanced applications of these statements, I want to emphasize one more point that we touched on earlier: consistency.
You're right. We can't forget about consistency. Why is it so crucial when working with these statements?
Well, think of your brain as a supercomputer that's constantly processing information and creating patterns based on your thoughts, feelings, and experiences. The more we repeat certain thoughts and feelings, the stronger those neural pathways become, and the more ingrained those patterns become in our subconscious mind.
So it's like we're running the same old programs over and over again, even when they're no longer serving us.
Exactly. But here's the good news. By consistently using these four statements, we're essentially rewriting the code, creating new neural pathways that support our highest potential.
It's like we're replacing those old, outdated programs with a brand new operating system that's designed for abundance, joy, and fulfillment.
Precisely, it's about repetition and reinforcement. The more we embody these truths, the more they become our default state, our new normal. And when that happens, our entire reality begins to shift to reflect that new internal reality.
This is all so incredibly empowering, and I know there's even more to explore. So what can you tell us about the more advanced applications of these quantum statements?
Well, Dr. Dispenza talks about combining these statements with specific brainwave patterns and breathing techniques
Okay.
to amplify their effects and access even deeper levels of transformation.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Can you give us an example of what that looks like in practice?
Absolutely. He teaches a powerful breathing technique where you inhale deeply for a count of 4 while mentally stating, I am enough. Then you hold your breath for a count of 4 while declaring, I create my reality. Next, you exhale for a count of 4 as you affirm everything is perfect now. Finally, you hold your breath again for a count of 4, feeling the truth of, I am infinite potential.
It sounds almost like a meditation practice. What happens when we do that?
This specific breathing pattern, combined with the statements, creates a powerful coherence between the heart and the brain. And we've actually observed this in our labs. When people practice this technique, their brain waves start to synchronize.
Wow.
Both hemispheres of the brain begin operating in harmony.
So instead of our brain hemispheres working independently, they start working together in sync.
Yes, and this whole brain state is where extraordinary things become possible. It's where we tap into a deeper level of creativity, intuition, and flow.
It's like accessing a hidden dimension of our mental and spiritual capacities.
Exactly, and some advanced practitioners even report experiencing what Dr. Dispenza calls quantum time.
Quantum time. I've never heard of that before. What is it?
It's a state where linear time seems to dissolve and you enter a realm of pure creativity and possibility. People describe feeling connected to a source of infinite wisdom and inspiration, a place where anything is possible.
Wow, that sounds incredible. It's like tapping into a field of pure potentiality where time and limitations cease to exist.
Yes, and while these states may seem far out, Dr. Dispenza believes they are accessible to anyone who is willing to dedicate themselves to the practice.
It's inspiring to think that we all have this potential within us, just waiting to be unlocked.
Absolutely not. Before we move on to part 3, where we'll explore how to apply these statements in your everyday life to create real and lasting change, we want to remind you
To like this episode and subscribe to the Metaphysics podcast, and don't forget to share this episode with anyone who might benefit from these empowering ideas.
we'll be back soon with part 3, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Metaphysics podcast for the final part of our deep dive into Dr. Joe Dispenza's 4 powerful statements.
We've covered a lot of ground so far, from
Yeah.
the science behind these statements to the profound ways they can shift our consciousness.
It's been quite a journey, but now I want to bring it back down to earth a little bit.
Okay.
And talk about practical application.
That's a great point. Let's explore how we can actually integrate these statements into our everyday lives to create tangible and lasting change.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
Well, let's revisit the first statement, I am enough. How often do you find yourself feeling inadequate or comparing yourself to others or doubting your abilities?
I think we can all relate to that feeling. At times, it's so easy to get caught in the trap of self-doubt, especially in today's world.
Exactly. So instead of letting those negative thoughts spiral, use I am enough as an anchor. When you feel that wave of insecurity washing over, you pause, take a deep breath, and declare I am enough with conviction.
It's like an antidote to our inner critic, a way to shift our focus from lack to wholeness.
Precisely. And the more you practice this, the more you'll start to see it reflected in your external reality. You'll attract people and opportunities that align with your inherent worthiness.
It's like we're reprogramming our subconscious mind to believe in our own value.
Exactly. Now, how about the second statement, I create my reality? How can we apply that in a practical way?
This one feels especially empowering, but it can also feel a bit daunting.
Right.
Where do we even begin to take ownership of creating our reality?
Start by shifting your perspective instead of feeling like a victim of circumstance. Ask yourself, what choices am I making that are contributing to my current reality? And then ask, what actions can I take to create the reality I desire?
So it's about becoming more conscious of the choices we're making and taking responsibility for the outcomes.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to control every little detail. It's more about aligning your thoughts, your words, and your actions with your desired outcome.
So it's like we're setting an intention and then taking inspired action towards it.
Yes, and visualization is a powerful tool here. Take some time to really envision what you want to create, feel the emotions associated with it, and then take steps to move towards that vision.
It's like we're planting the seeds of our desires in the fertile ground of the quantum field.
Exactly. Now let's move on to everything is perfect now. This one can be tricky, especially when we're facing challenges.
Yeah, I can imagine some listeners might be struggling with this one. How can we embrace the idea that everything is perfect when things are clearly not going our way?
It's not about pretending that everything is rosy or denying the reality of challenges. It's about shifting our perspective to see the perfection within the imperfection.
So instead of resisting the present moment, we're accepting it as it is.
Exactly. When we resist what is, we create suffering, but when we accept the present moment, even with its challenges, we open ourselves up to a deeper level of peace and possibility.
It's like surrendering to the flow of life, trusting that even the difficult moments are serving our highest good.
Yes. And remember, every challenge presents an opportunity for growth and learning. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try asking, what is this situation trying to teach me? Or how can I use this experience to evolve and expand?
It's about finding the hidden blessings in every situation, even the ones that seem painful or unfair.
Exactly. And when we approach life with that attitude, we become more resilient, more adaptable, and more able to navigate challenges with grace and ease.
Okay, now let's talk about the final statement, I am infinite potential. How can we tap into that infinite potential and manifest it in our lives?
This statement is all about recognizing that we are not limited by our past experiences, our current circumstances, or even our physical bodies. We are limitless beings with the power to create anything we desire.
It's about breaking free from the confines of our self-imposed limitations and stepping into the fullness of who we truly are.
Exactly. It's about unleashing the creative genius that resides within each of us. So ask yourself, what are my deepest passions? What are my unique gifts and talents? And what kind of impact do I want to make on the world?
And then take action towards those dreams, even if they seem impossible at first.
Exactly. Remember, the universe loves audacity. When we dare to dream big and align our actions with our highest aspirations, incredible things can happen.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something we discussed earlier, the concept of the morphic field and the collective impact of embracing these quantum truths. Why is it so important to share these ideas with others?
It's simple, really. The more people who start operating from a place of wholeness, empowerment, and infinite potential, the more we raise the vibration of the entire planet.
It's like we're all interconnected threads in the vast tapestry. When one thread vibrates at a higher frequency, it affects the entire fabric.
Exactly, and we're not just transforming our own lives, we're contributing to a global shift towards a more conscious, compassionate, and interconnected world.
That's a beautiful thought. So as we conclude this deep dive, we encourage you to start experimenting with these 4 powerful statements. Remember, you are enough, you create your reality, everything is perfect now, and you are infinite potential.
Embrace these truths and watch your life transform.
That's for joining us on the Metaphysics Podcast. Don't forget to like this episode and subscribe to the show. And if you found these ideas valuable, please share them with your friends and family.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep expanding, and keep reaching for your highest potential.